All right. I've got somebody very exciting today to speak with and tell us a lot about AI. Her name is Olga Topchaya, and she's got a business background, marketing, product roles, things that she's done in business. So she's got a unique ability to go from AI into what matters in business, which of course is overhead and the cost of bringing things done, labor costs, everything that's going on and how AI is affecting the world. I'd like to just start with Olga. Can you tell us a little bit about your life journey? What in the world got you into this field? How did you grow up? Just a little bit of background about you, and then I'm sure I have a few questions for me from there.
Yes, absolutely. So I never thought I would be doing AI. When I was growing up, this was definitely not the plan. I majored in English. I was
Ah,
there. Yes. When I was in college, didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to write. And so I majored in English. And then throughout my when I was in college, I got an internship at an ad agency. And so I started doing some copywriting and some advertising. And that kind of led me more into marketing. And then I was doing marketing for a little while, which led me closer into marketing strategy and then product marketing. A lot of companies I worked for were smaller companies in the earlier part of my career. So I had to wear many different hats. And being a marketing director and a marketing strategist, a lot of it naturally, you're also doing product. So you're thinking about the audiences, you're thinking about positioning and messaging, a lot of different things, and user research and competitive analysis, a lot of really product tasks that you're thinking about. So it was an evolution, certainly. And then in the latter part of my career, I was mostly working with tech companies. So I was in tech, but I was doing product and marketing in. And then in 2022, I went on parental leave. And as I was getting ready to come back to work, the absolute worst tech recession hits. Okay. So
yep.
maybe you remember this 2022, Google, Facebook, Amazon, everyone is being laid off post COVID, over hiring, right? And of course, I'm no exception. So I sending out my resumes into a void, into a black hole. I'm like, this is not working.
Now
It's like,
that's got to feel tough when you've got to
oh
put out
yeah.
that many resumes and everyone is in the same boat. Oh my gosh. But when you talked a little bit about the marketing that you did and advertising, when you're in that field, it's about storytelling, isn't it? And how does that fit in with the direction you've taken? Because the next move was going into AI.
Yes. So so that is when I discovered AI.
Yeah.
That's exactly when. So it's 2022. It was before ChatGPT came out.
Oh,
I decided I'm going to take a step back and just see what the world is, hang out with my baby. And I just literally randomly stumbled upon it. The technology, it was GPT-3 at that point. The model was DaVinci 3. And it was OpenAI's playground. It was so archaic in comparison to what we have now. I liken it to a fancy autocorrect because that's what it was. Predicting the next word, but that's pretty much it. And then models still do that, right? They are predicting the next word, but far more advanced, many more features and many more capabilities. I see this and I'm like, this is incredible. Why is nobody talking about it? How is it that the media hasn't picked up on it and marketers and business owners? And why is nobody saying anything? I was like, and this, how is everyone just silent? And I say to my husband, who's a developer, I'm like, hey, do you know about this? Why are you not telling me about this? It's a best kept secret. And okay, this I need to know. I need to know anything I possibly can about this. And so I joined groups, I joined hackathons, I just started reaching out to people, anyone that I could find that knows anything about this technology. And at that point, there were very few people out there because it was so new. Most people knew very little and almost next to nothing about it. So whatever niche groups out there on the corners of the internet that I could plug myself into, that's what I did. And then I got my first foot in the door as a prompt engineer for a company called Copy AI. They were one of the first AI companies that were like a wrapper for OpenAI. And it was great. It was a very fun job. I loved it. And but then ChatGPT came out. And that was a contract job. And then so ChatGPT comes out and they're like, oh, we need to pivot because ChatGPT is taking our business now. So we're gonna let all our contractors go. Like, but then I got another contract. And then this time was for another AI company. It was a small company. They didn't really know what they were doing. They were pre-product, pre-market, like pre-everything, right? But it was on the product side. And then another contract as a prompt engineer for an insurance company that was building an AI assistant. And then another contract, right? So just these contracts were popping up. And because everyone wanted AI, right? The market was really tough. So they weren't hiring full-time employees, but they knew that they needed AI. And so I said, all right, now it's time to build my own company. And that's how Lapis started. So I had the product, I had the AI component. At that point, no one was doing it, right? I was one of the very few. So I had that, but I'm not a developer at the end of the day. And it became very obvious fairly early on for me that if I want to be competitive, I need to build the software. Otherwise, you're just a consultant talk.
Yeah.
And so what did I do? What do all entrepreneurs do when they don't have a skill set? They go and hire people. And so
Yep.
that's what I did. I went out and I hired some absolutely brilliant AI developers. And now I have a team in the US and in the UK. And we now have three core services that we're offering to clients. We have the AI strategy, which is on the business side, software development, and as well as AI training.
So this is a little bit of when you meet a potential client, you're going through all three phases, right? You're going through, I understand you correctly, is you got to see what kind of business strategy they're in, what they're trying to set their goal at, what they're actually trying to do. And some of it has to do with we got to get overhead down, or another is they're trying to get a new product out. So you're actually gamifying it, so to speak, and that first thing to see what it is that they need, and then you're setting up what the results will be, how to get to those results.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
You companies may need something different
right.
on a one size fits all solution. So depending on what it is they need, maybe you just need to upskill your workforce, in which case we do trainings that are specific to a workflow. So we'll identify where are your employees spending the most amount of time and are they using AI tools? And if they're using them, are they maybe not using them correctly or not using them the most efficient manner? In which case
Right.
we'll right? Maybe you don't need to build software, right? So not all companies need that. Some companies do, but not all companies do. So it depends on what the actual need is.
Once you have that defined, you're able to set out the plan and start building
Yeah.
just what it is. And I guess there's a lot of reiterating, going back and forth, and the communication part of doing business with a client. But what was it like the first two or three clients that you did bring on for your new business? Any stories there? Kind of what happened? And
Yeah. So the first few clients that we had were actually startups. They were not even startups yet. They were entrepreneurs that wanted to launch startups. They
mm,
were experts in their field and they had a product vision and they knew that they themselves were not able to build it or have the technology and technological expertise to build the product. So they came to us and they said, this is the vision I have. Can you build it for me? And we said, yes, we can. We can absolutely do it. We have the capability here. So one of the products was for a construction company. It was a construction consultant, actually, that It was for a voice app that allows construction workers to fill out work orders and change orders and take diary notes out on the field. So they don't need to do it on paper or run back to the office and do it. So they're able to just dictate it to their app, and the AI fills out the orders right away, and then they can send it off to their contacts. So that was one of our first
Wow.
products that we built. Yes, it was very exciting.
That saves a lot of time, I take it.
So much time. So much time. The construction industry is paper heavy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Very paper heavy. So it saves a ton of time, a ton of paper, a ton of effort. It was a very cool product. That was great to see. It was one of my favorites, still one of my favorite products that we built that I think huge impact. And then the second one was for the emergency preparedness space, which is also very paper heavy. And like this has actually become our specialty, is industries which have been traditionally reluctant and resistant to adopting AI. They are actually the ones that stand to gain the most right now, because the new wave of AI is so easy for users to adopt. So the second client that we had, was an early client, was for the emergency preparedness space that helps design disaster and emergency scenarios. The old way of doing it was for a bunch of people to get together in a room, and they have this like situation manual that they have to go through, and they come up with an idea scenario off the top of their head, which is like aliens landing or something.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Very frequently, it's very unrealistic. Instead, we take the standard guidelines, and the AI, which has an incredible amount of creativity, can create these disaster scenarios, and then taking a step further, provide the trainings and prepare people for these different scenarios in various kind of emergency response situations. So also really phenomenal product, and again, startup. And I think I I, I believe, I'm not sure if they full, I think they recently actually just came out of stealth mode. But yeah, again, another industry that was traditionally reluctant to adopting automation. And so we found that these industries where in the past, and I would look at software that they've tried to develop, and it would often be very confusing. It would be a lot of drop downs and buttons and things happening all over the place. But with the new wave of AI, you just got a chatbot. That's it. It's a very simple UI. And this is one of the things that we always try to focus on, is simplicity in design. Because when you're dealing with industries that often are resistant to adopting technology, you really have to keep it simple for the user. It is absolutely critical to keep it simple for the end user.
Both of those scenarios that you've covered there, the story behind that isn't something where there were so many companies went out there and just building chatbots and just working off of knowledge bases. You're doing something a lot more effective at that level of you're knocking down a huge percentage of their overhead costs and making them sleeker and faster. The chatbots are pretty pretty good, and they're getting a lot better. And in fact, they have a voice too, from what I understand. But what you went after was the actual problems that they have, because they were so paper intensive. It didn't take you going through the simple things to get there, like chatbots. That's why I mentioned those, because those are simple compared to what you went after. So any company that's got this kind of complexity, a million different details to manage, you can't put all those drop downs and everything on 50 pages and cover a million different details. You need AI to clean it up and make it in such a way that you're building UIs that are just the simplicities there. I'm impressed. That's amazing. That's the things you went after. Absolutely. Companies can really benefit from what you're actually doing. Wow.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And that's what we're now specializing in, is how can we cut costs for a business, especially right now. And you have the economy that's shrinking, inflation, tariffs are
Oh,
at
yeah.
30%. India is about to hit 50%. I think today or tomorrow, India is
Yeah.
kicking. Right, so today's August 27th. I'm not sure when this is airing, but that's when we're recording. So it's companies are going to be looking for ways to cut costs, right? Because what else can you do? Make more, spend less. That's it. These are your only options. What are you going to do? The first thing they're going to try to do is they're going to try to cut people. And that is going to go poorly, as it always does, because when you cut people, you are causing, fine, you have decreased morale, of course, but there's panic, there's burnout, right? Your people become less productive. You're becoming less efficient when you cut people. You're not becoming more efficient. Instead of cutting people, implement AI so that you can cut that operational fat and you can cut a bare minimum of 30% on it. We did the math on this, and it is at the very least 30% that you can actually cut in hidden inefficiency in labor. Cut that stuff out. And instead, then you can direct your people to tasks which are revenue generating tasks, or tasks which are actually going to be moving the needle on your business. Because right now, what we found is that a ton of time gets wasted. And to be precise, at least 30.8% is getting wasted on tasks such as looking up information, anything from where is this file out there somewhere on the intranet,
Right.
or where is this email, or how much PTO do I have? I don't know, when am I supposed to be meeting someone? Just like basic information search. Who reports to the CMO that I need to contact? Basic information search. That comes out to be approximately 8%. We've done research on this. Then about another eight, let's say it's 10%, we'll just keep it simple, rounding it off. Then approximately another 10% is on administrative tasks. So things like form filling, updating project boards, this kind of manual admin work. Also, not doing nothing for your bottom line, nothing at all. Then you have another 10% that is, again, these are all bare minimums. We're being very conservative here because I just don't want to scare people away with like crazy numbers, and numbers can get crazy. But then you have another 10% that's role specific, and every role will have its own. For an analyst, maybe it's research or report generation, right? Maybe it's the same like Excel spreadsheet that you're constantly filling out, right? Every role will have its own task, and at least 10% of that. When you add that up, at least 30%. And so if you take, let's say, a mid-level employee of that is making 75,000, if as a national average, it's way higher if you're on the coast in New York or in California, or if you're in industries like in tech, for example, which pay way above the national average. But let's say you're somewhere in the middle and in manufacturing or making 75,000, 5 years in, something like that. We use a multiple of 1.4, which is factoring in benefits and taxes. That's the cost to the employer.
Yep. Yep.
So that actually 30% comes out to $32,000 per employee per year.
That's how you come to that number. Olga, this is really important what you just covered because you gave the why. In the news and everywhere you turn around, if you're here, there's a tsunami coming. And people don't realize, what does that mean to me personally? Now you just got the kind of food that people can get into and digest because you gave them the why this is happening. It's for real. If you're a company that isn't moving right now, you've really got to start bearing down and get some consultations. And that happens to be one of the number one things that you do is you'll sit down and work it out with where they're at. You can look at their spreadsheets and whatnot and pull those numbers, and if you know it's 30%, it could be 10, 20% even higher than that, actually, some industries. So that's the truth of it. And if you're not moving, you're going to get passed by. It's just that simple. If you want to grow and you want to grow 10 times faster, you can keep the same people you have, or at least the ones that are really our producers, and drop that administrative type of work, that busy work, as you call it, busy work that makes up that 30%, and make them so far more effective. Or you go the other route and you just, through attrition, let the ones that are not really performing, they're doing the kind of work that, AI can do in a couple of minutes versus hours of work. That starts to get a handle on your business. I would think restaurants, in a way, could benefit from this, from looking at it from the overhead side of it, how they're purchasing, whether they're getting vendors to bid against each other to get costs there. What comes in the back door is every restaurant owner wants to know they're buying the best. They want to bring in the best through the back door, but the problem they have with a million different things going on is, how do you get that high quality that you just invested in to the table? And how well are you working the hospitality end of, because it really is entertainment and hospitality when you go out to dinner. You're there to see other people and be social, but it's the whole ambiance of the whole thing. Do you think there might be some ways with AI that could actually work in that field? It might probably be the bigger companies that have, 10 different brands under them that could probably cut their costs the most immediately and become more effective, I would think. But what are your thoughts on that?
In the research we did, we actually did interview operations leader in the food industry. And
Mm,
it wasn't a huge company. They had a few locations, but not a huge company. And where they found value was in order taking. So for people calling in to take orders, specifically, they saw a 7% increase with basic voice, just basic voice. Now, can you imagine if they were to implement advanced AI voice, how that would work?
oh
Uh,
my.
if they were to do something like upselling with
Yes.
advanced AI voice, what that would do, it would be incredible. So, order taking, you can increase your revenue from that, take your take whatever you've made from that, and then put that revenue toward investing into entertainment or hospitality or whatever it is that you're looking to invest, right? So this is the way that I would advise businesses to think about when they're implementing AI. A mistake I often see businesses making is, here's our core function. How can AI make this core function better? And that, I think, is maybe you can do that in certain business and certain industries. You can make that better, but that's not always where you're going to get the most for your buck. Where you will get it is by cutting those costs, or in, like, for example, order taking, right? Maybe generating some revenue in maybe upselling or better customer support, for example, right? A dollar is a dollar. That's what you're after here. You're looking for dollars. So a dollar is a dollar. Figure out where you can get those extra dollars with AI, and then allocate it to where it needs to go. But you need to know where AI excels, and put AI where it excels, and then put people where people excel. People excel at relationship management. People excel at leadership. People excel at creativity. When I say creativity, the creative source. AI is great at, like, making images and videos. It's great at writing, in many ways better than people, but not as the creative source of a true original idea. So
Got
that is what I mean by human creativity versus AI creativity, right? I use AI for creative stuff all the time, but I am always the creative source, right, for any content that I produce. You need to really understand, where does AI excel and where do people excel, and then blend the two together.
Wow, that's a huge statement, because the fact is human creativity has high value. And the problems that we have been facing over our whole human history is labor cost, time to get things done from when we had tools and when we didn't have tools. We had to be creative. You just have to
Yeah.
you just have to find an answer somehow. And over time, we've arrived in a sense where, my gosh, our time can be spent on human creativity.
Yeah.
So much more of what we can do as human beings, really. That's amazing. When I started thinking about what you were talking about, the food business, cash flow happens to be something huge. So how do you think AI is going to affect accounting and the ability to know that you're losing a dollar a plate every plate you put out because of where you are at this minute? How good can you think it will get there where an owner or a manager can make quick decisions before a problem actually arises because the AI can forecast weeks ahead or months ahead or years ahead, or the fact that you have differences in seasons. You have your seasons when high season, you have your low season. How do you hold a team together? All those kind of things. It takes human beings to be creative, yes, but as far as figuring out the numbers and then interpreting it, is AI going to be able to contribute there?
I think so. It's closer to data science, I would say.
Data science. Okay. Yeah, data science.
I would say it's closer to data science, but yes, AI certainly has its place. I would say it's more traditional, like machine learning. You would take like historical data and then it has to learn off of the historical data. I wouldn't give like math to a large language model. It's still not quite there yet when it comes to mathematical analyses. You don't want to do that, but it can certainly accelerate something. So initial processing, right? Cleaning up some of the data, you can do that. Structuring, some of the data, you can do that. So there's certain ways where you can layer technologies with each other. I think that it's more complex than just saying, "Hey, ChatGPT, here's my history. Can you predict, okay, should I be spending my money here or not?"
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Um, I will say that there are people out there right now that are thinking about inventory management protection, for example, software that I know personally that is being built as we speak. So that would be a big one. It's something that we ourselves have also looked into. We haven't had a client come to us with that need, so we have not built anything specific, but out of sheer curiosity, it is something that we have investigated, and I can tell you that it is possible to do. It is costly and time consuming to do. So I don't know if I would recommend it for like a small business, but the short answer is yes and soon.
Ah, okay. That's fair enough. And the size matters. That has a significance. That has a
You need
significance
you
for
need
sure.
data. You need
Yeah.
to data, but you also need the thing is where the challenges come in is that historical data is not enough because you have all kinds of other variables. You want to be able to act outside of just historical data. And that is where a complexity seeps in, is because you need insights outside of history.
You do. You do. There's an old saying between the restaurant owners about you have a million things that can go wrong in the restaurant business, and you have three ways to control it. And that's an old saying among owners because it is complex, as you say, but it does come down to overhead, it comes down to employees and labor costs, and then food costs, that sort of stuff. All the three major things that they have to have control of, and a million things go wrong in any one of those areas. So how do you know? That's why I think
Oh
AI could
yeah,
be
exactly.
helpful.
Thinking about, so those three things you mentioned are very important. For example, employees, right? You can control your employees, so you can control your employee productivity. For example, they need to abide by certain food health safety regulations, right? They need training. you are putting in time and therefore money into training your employees. AI can accelerate that training. You have a ton of health and safety regulation manuals that they need to read or understand. I don't know exactly the degree to which they need to know these things, but there's things that they need to know. Where you can control is you can control them in accelerating their training, in accelerating how to prepare food, how to manage food. That whatever that time is, whether it takes a week or a month, you can accelerate it. So
Well,
that is the cost control.
that's huge. You've got health certificates, for instance, that the
There you go.
employee has to earn. And if
There
you're
you
taking
go.
a manager to go do that, means he's not doing something else.
Exactly. There you
And
go.
how good is the training? How good is it? Some people learn at different speeds.
There you go.
And AI can handle that.
Exactly.
That's, I think that hits the nail on the head right there.
Exactly.
Where do
It can adapt to your learning style. That is one of the great things about this new wave of AI is explain like I'm five, right? Explain like I'm
right?
10. It is
Yes.
so amazing. One of the ways that I learned AI is through AI, okay?
Yep. Yep.
Explain like I'm a marketer, explain in layman's terms, or you give it, yeah, some kind of background to the person so they can use great at using analogies and stories and make it engaging, right? So a way that it's not just the user reading information, but the information being retained in a person's head because they can relate to it now.
How do you get the context right for different people?
I mean, you would talk to them. You need to know who the
Yeah.
people are. It's
Oh
a
yeah. Oh yes.
program. Yeah,
But
you need
AI can do that.
AI
That's
can
the
do it.
thing.
Exactly. So you would exactly you because you can't develop this in the traditional way at scale, but
Mhm.
AI, you can very easily personalize it with prompt, and that's it.
But yeah, it's getting to the point where I've seen people that will give a prompt to AI and say, improve my prompt. This is
Yes,
what I'm looking for.
absolutely.
And give it context, of course. But
Called meta prompting. Yeah, it's a great strategy. Meta prompt or self prompt. It's a fantastic strategy. I highly recommend. You could say improve my prompt. You could also say generate a prompt that will do X, and it'll go ahead and do it for you.
with you, where you're taking it next, it seems the clients that you get that at least some of their key people may need some education, may need a little bit more than just here's the system and we'll train you on the system, but they may need a little additional training about AI so they understand it at a greater level. Is that something that might be an avenue for you in the future, or do you do some of that now?
Yeah, we do. We are. We're doing that now. So we recently launched AI coaching for
Oh, okay.
teams and for individuals as well. Yes. So for teams, it's the way it usually works is we will identify a goal for the
Mm-hmm.
team and then we build a workshop around that goal. And it can be your own tools that you have if we didn't build anything for you, or we would go out and find tools that kind of becomes like a strategy session almost, but you would come to us and say, hey, we're using just ChatGPT or just Claude, or maybe we're using Photo for design or Canva or something, right? And then this is what our team is struggling with, and this is what we would like to accomplish. And then we design either one workshop or a series of workshops around that particular goal. Each workshop is 2 hours, and it's designed for usually between 5 and 8 people. We like keeping it small so that we can provide individualized attention. We do an intake questionnaire with a 10-minute or 15-minute, depending on kind of package, one-on-one sessions with each individual team member before the workshop begins.
Do you
That
test
way,
on retention by chance? On retention as well to see how yeah how well they are taking the information? That
no, not we don't really do any kind of testing.
Mhm.
We found that traditional tests when it comes to AI stuff is you just need to do it. That's really
I
what it
get
is.
that. That is so true.
So,
I'm glad you brought that up because you
yeah,
learn by
like
example and by doing. Yeah.
doing
All
it.
right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when we do our workshops, we have people. This is where I we need to do that in that first like 10-minute
Hmm.
one-on-one.
Mhm.
outside of your boss and your other team members are so important because we need to understand what are you here to learn, what are your individual concerns, and then in the workshop we can address them. And that's why these workshops have to be small. And then everyone has their laptops open and we do the prompts, we go through the strategies, we have your own examples. That's why it's longer, it's 2 hours. We keep very light on anything like PowerPoint or testing materials. It's all like hands on keyboard.
If you're able to give them the joy of discovering and you're teaching
Yeah.
that way,
Yeah.
that's what you're
Exactly.
doing actually. So I
Exactly.
think that is probably the most effective kind of
Exactly.
thing.
Exactly. It's not a test that like your boss has to sit
I
you,
get it.
makes you.
Yeah.
And then we also are now starting to do one-on-one sessions
Mm.
for individual professionals that is similar, but there we're only doing 1 hour, which is similar kind of coaching style, very to that approach. So we do a baseline assessment. You give us a goal, what it is that you're looking to work on in your career or in your job, in your profession. A lot of people are out of work right now and they're looking for work. So they want to see how can they make themselves a more attractive candidate for employers. Other people are afraid to lose their job. They're afraid to get replaced by AI. They want to get some AI skills, or their bosses are telling them, hey, you need to learn this stuff. And they go and watch some YouTube videos or something. But that's not helpful always because then you got to go and apply it and it doesn't work out in practice when you're actually looking at those outputs and you're like, wait, why is it telling me this? That's not really what I want. So then we do these kind of coaching sessions where we'll look through that one on
Well,
one.
people are going to realize that you look back through history and it's when the automobile came out, what happened to the buggy whip people? Nobody's buying buggy whips anymore. Are
Nobody's
you
buying
going to
them.
stay there or do you learn some new tools? That's saying it very simply of stepping up and
Exactly.
find it not scary or be afraid. It's more of an excitement and an adventure to get into AI and start learning the many things you can do because the world could take you in a lot of different directions. Reminds me of Odeo. Odeo was a company that was going to build a database of podcasts. And all of a sudden, iTunes came around, Apple came into the picture, and they built it. And they're sitting there running out of their startup money. They only have about 2 weeks to keep going, and they have to come up with a new idea. And somebody came up with the idea of short term messaging. Oh, we'll have to change the name of the company. So Odeo became Twitter. And that's a good old story in the industry that it shows you that sometimes you can see things, especially from your point of view, when maybe you're just close, you see your client is close to their target, but they need a little bit of pivoting.
Yeah.
Sometimes they need that extra eyes and that kind of thing. So your consulting is really critical of what you do for companies. But the other thing I noticed learning about you is you do take on some speaking engagements. Am I right about that? And what's that all about?
I love it.
Oh, you do?
I do. I love
Oh,
it. I love it.
that's great.
Yeah. If there's opportunities to be podcasts like this as well,
Sure.
obviously, by giving talks or trainings and workshops. It is my way of giving back as well. I think there's just a lot of people that want to learn about AI, but don't always have an opportunity to do that. They're curious and yeah, and they're seldom ever paid for. Most of the times they're held by nonprofits or sometimes small businesses. But yeah, it's very often training style on what cover various topics, anything from AI adoption to risk and AI specific risks to prompt strategies to building AI systems for non-technical audiences, right? So there's a lot of different topics that can get covered, but yeah, it's
You could touch a lot of different topics. Then on top of it, it just depends on what the audience is looking for, obviously. That and you can get in front of them and help people. I think one of the benefits of that too, it helped me years ago when I was doing a lot of work in LinkedIn. And I would do a LinkedIn workshop. In fact, I did dinner workshops because I figured if they're going to come out after work, I better feed them. So I made a dinner kind of thing out of it, and I brought wine and stuff like that, and I'd get 40 people in the room, and that made me nervous as anything because I hadn't really been in. I don't love speaking in front of crowds, but I've gotten over it over the years. I'm to enjoy it, but yeah, that was a little bit scary. But boy, when you are giving great tips and techniques that you think will help people, and you start to see them picking up their notebooks and writing it down, you've finally been successful because you don't know what the audience actually knows thing. And I took the marketing strategy of not selling anything, not presenting a gold, silver, bronze, buy now kind of thing. It wasn't a sales thing. It was really a workshop. But what that does for people like ourselves, where we're out there as leaders in what we do and we're an authority of what we know and that kind of thing, people don't know that until they actually experience you speaking or teaching them something. And you surprise yourself because you have to prepare. You don't even know what you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can know a lot, and you certainly know a lot more than what the audience knows, but do you know the right things? So you always have to get into your own knowledge base, and you're always looking to self-improve so that you're giving the best quality. You know what? That just turns into business. It's a wonderful thing for any business person who's watching this in the future to really think about putting on their own events and teaching others what they know. And don't, because one day you're not out in it anymore, and you could have been a great help to a lot of other people, even more so than you'll ever know. You could have people showing up years later going, Olga, you did a speaking event in Ontario, Canada in 19 or 2022 or something. And 19, we're in the 2000s now, aren't we? I gotta laugh about myself on that one. Shows my age, right, Olga? Still living in the 19th century and 20th century. Yeah. Gotta laugh about
Not
that.
good for 19th century. You know?
Yeah, it would be really good. Yes, yes. But the thing is, you got to reach back into your own reservoir of knowledge and always staying on top. And that's what AI is all about. It changes 2 weeks from now. We'll be talking about other things that are part of it because it's
And
all building up, isn't it?
every day, it's so tough to stay on top of it. It's such a big part of my job
Hmm.
is to stay on top of what's happening. And it is impossible to stay on top of it. It's like, oh, how do you know the latest model that came out? And you don't, you just don't. Like there are like thousands of models coming out every single day. There's a new open source model that's out. So don't even try. You're not
Don't
gonna know.
even
Like if
try.
you're curious about a model, go and Hugging Face, and that's it. But yeah, with the speaking, and it's a way to keep yourself sharp. It's a way to solidify your own knowledge, and yeah, and then share that with others for sure.
I think that's an important thing. I found it to be a great sales tool. I didn't have to sell.
Yeah,
It just came to me, and
yeah,
you're writing up contracts within 2 weeks of doing an event like that because people now see you for what you're able to deliver. And I think that's a good thing. So I love the fact that you do speaking engagements and a variety of them as well. I think that's fantastic. What would be you could tell us about the best way to work with you? Is there something that you do? You have a consulting session with people? Do you set something up, or how do people work with you?
yes.
Basically.
So they can find me on LinkedIn, Olga
Hmm.
Topchaya. They can reach out to me directly, or they can go on our website, lapisconsults.com, and
Okay.
comment. So usually we would meet, you would tell us about what it is that you're troubling with, and we would figure out how it is that you can help you. Again, there's different ways that we may be able to work together. And so that is something that we would figure out together depending on your needs, your resources, and your timeline.
So you have what you'd call a discovery meeting type of thing.
So, yeah, the first meeting is just a discovery meeting of getting to know each other. Then we would send you a proposal, and then we could take it from there.
Take it from there. That's easy. Yeah. Simple as pie. Simple as pie.
It is simple as pie. Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for the time, and we covered quite a bit of ground. But I think we gave a lot of grounding to people that really going to pick up enough information to get out there and start learning and look for the skills and the talent that's out there already. People like you and what you're doing. It's a big step to go in to do be your own CEO. But I think the magic of why you've been successful is the fact that you put highly talented people, you build a team, And that's what you've been able to accomplish. And that's why you're able to deliver so much really cost-effective things that you bring to them. What you're doing is more than pays for itself. Let's just put it that way. Well, I hope to talk to you again and see where you are in the future, because we'll have a whole lot of another whole section of AI that's going on by then, for sure.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.